are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
You just heard Baby J about 3 minutes give his entire A to Z on what was going on. I didn't interrupt you.
I don't even like I got to everything, honestly.
No, you didn't get to everything.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, Melissa Lombardi, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I think Dan Lanning sitting in his office going, you know what, fine, give us the toughest road to win the national championship. That's what it should be.
I think that this team is going to go as far as Malik Murphy takes them. There's a lot to like about this offense if he's who we think he could be.
And some smiles.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing working? No, that's why you got to do this. You got to go.
Hello?
Hello? Testing, testing,
it's like the little
testing.
girl in Nemo where she's tapping on the glass.
Fishy! Fishy, wake up, Fishy!
It's Danny Hamill.
We have to be more specific. We have a lot of pickle things going on, apparently.
Justin Grossweiner.
I've been wrong before, but that's what I think.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome high atop the Delta Tri in the Crystal Palace of the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport. This is the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk. This is the Danny and Justin radio program. Thanks for tuning in, friends, wherever and however you're listening in the Valley on 102.9 FM, 1050 AM, or on the coast, 92.7 FM, KNCU. Online, you're doing the Alexa thing. Say, Alexa, play Fox Sports Eugene. Does that work for Fox Sports Newport, too? I wonder. You can also pod us wherever you platform your pods. If you missed the show, wherever. It's Odyssey, iHeart, YouTube, any of them. Spotify. Danny and Justin is the handle. Fastest 60 minutes. The other handle. I am Danny Hamill. Right over there is my tag team partner, Justin Grossweiner. We call him Baby J. Butter boy.
Well, I'm feeling fantastic today, Danny. I know you're much concerned about my physical health. I'm also glad you like the open. I can always see you smiling whenever I see this one. That's how I know it's good.
Well, okay, but there's one piece that needs to be changed.
Potentially.
In the open. Not potentially.
No,
well, that's all. We're going to leave it for a little bit. You're going to try and will
see
this
how
into
game 2
existence.
goes.
I wonder if people understand which part I'm talking about. I'm going to let them guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And again, Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin. That's the handle. Good show today as we try and effort through a Tuesday. Dave Eanet, the golden voice. So we switched things up. We were going to have the Godfather, Matt Dompe from the Eugene Emeralds, in the studio today, but he called me this morning, and they had to move up a team picture. They're in the postseason. They're in the championship of the Northwest League, which starts tonight at PK Park, 6:35, first pitch. So you want to go watch some championship baseball? Get down to PK Park. It's Eugene and Everett in the championship series. Everett won the first half. Eugene won the second half. And I also found out why Eugene only gets 2 games in the best of 5 series is because whoever wins the first half, they get the choice of whether they want to play at home the first 2 games or host potentially the last 3 games. So
why wouldn't you want to do the second option?
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Why would you? Because
there is a
make
choice.
The argument of, because you could say, if you get the second one, you get possibly 3 games, but you're still guaranteed 2. It's not like you're only guaranteed 1.
I'm just
be
explaining because I was questioning. I would have thought that it would have been the team who had the best overall record between the first half and second half would be. It's kind of like in Major League Baseball. Whoever has the best record is going to be the home team, right? That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought that's the way it would have been, but no, because they have to sell tickets. So the home team, the first half winner, gets to automatically say, okay, we know we're going to have at least 1 game in the championship series. And we know it's going to be on this date, barring rainouts. So they can go ahead and start selling tickets like weeks in advance. The disadvantage for a team like Eugene is that they didn't clinch until, last week and a half ago?
Yeah, but they still clinched fairly early. I don't think
they did, but that's not normal, though, and you can't ever bank on that.
No.
The 49 wins in the second half, by the way, for Eugene. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no kidding. It was pretty good.
So the Northwestern voice, Dave Ennet's going to be on the program today. That's a long way to get back to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have Dave Eanet on the program. He was supposed to be tomorrow. He's today. Matt Dompe is going to be in studio tomorrow. We promise. Let's fill up PK Park tonight, please, fans. Let's give your full-throated support to the Emeralds tonight as they very important to get out to that first game win in a short 5-game series to win the Northwest League Championship. So 6:35 first pitch. You got plenty of time after work. Get out there to the ballpark. All the regular festivities and fun at PK Park for the Emeralds tonight. But we'll be talking Northwestern football with Dave Eanet. The big matchup, big noon kickoff in Evanston, Illinois, in the glorified high school stadium that is, they're calling it what, Martin Field? I think that's what they call it. Martin Stadium, Northwestern Medicine Field at Martin Stadium. It's 15,000 people. Most of the fans will be in the end zones, I think. I don't know if there's, I'll ask Dave Eanet. I don't think there's very many seats in between the goal lines, like from
just
end to
in the
end.
end zones.
A lot of them are in the end zones.
They have to call it something.
I guess it's 15,000 people.
Yeah.
You go to almost any high school in the state of Texas, you're gonna be sitting in bigger stands.
And they're going to be doing it for 3 years, aren't they?
No. They'll be next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Oh, has it been 3 years?
Ryan Field. No, it has
I've heard
been a
something
couple of
about
years.
3. Yeah, okay, that's what I
Ryan Field will be ready next year to
Right.
go. I mean, they're working hard on it. So, but that's, I don't think the next time we see Northwestern after this year for Oregon will be here at Austin Stadium.
Right. And
They
then
won't
who
go back
knows
for
when,
several years.
because the Big Ten schedule, and I think you play teams, what, is it 3 out of every 5 years?
If you figured it out, tell me. Because
I think it's
have
3 out of every
not,
5 years you play a team.
It kind of got that way with the last dredges of the Pac-12, where it was like there was 3-on-3 off of the North-South division type thing that they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
where we wouldn't play USC and UCLA in the same year. We wouldn't play Arizona State in the same year. We would always play Washington State, Washington, Oregon State, Stanford, I think, and Cal. Is that right? What? So I think because then it was Utah, Colorado, Arizona State, UCLA, USC was like the South, and then Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State was the North.
Yeah,
that
sounds right.
Yeah. I didn't like that because especially when we were beating the brains out of USC every year, that was fun.
Yeah,
and then we didn't get that every year.
Well, the divisions, I don't think, worked in any of these conferences.
They got rid of most of them.
They did, and it made sense completely because, especially even in the Big Ten, it was constantly either Wisconsin or Iowa on one side,
and in the West, and then the East was Ohio State.
All the good teams, Ohio State,
and they would
Michigan
pound the opponent in the Big Ten championship game.
Just thinking about us and our connection with this game, right? Because we're here out in Eugene. I'm just thinking about Evanston. Evanston is such a weird place for, like, it's nothing like Eugene, right?
Oh no, not at all.
Not even close. It's the suburbs.
Yeah, and the burbs of Chicago. People don't understand. Chicago proper, geographically, is not huge. It's built around, like, when you get to O'Hare Airport, you are actually in the suburbs at that point.
100%.
You're right next to Wheaton, Elmhurst, Villa Park, Glen Ellen, Lombard. I could keep naming them off. Forest Park. And then you go to north, there's Evanston, there's Cicero to the south. So, yeah, I'm interested to find out how many people are actually traveling back to this game, because with limited tickets, limited seats, I think people are saving their money and have already saved their money and have already booked their trip to go to State College at the end of this month to go to watch the Penn State game.
And I actually saw some billboards that were advertising for flights to that game specifically.
So that's one thing a couple of the airlines did well, is reschedule and, like, bring the big jets into the Eugene airport. And they did it in Portland as well. So I remember I told you this last year when I went to the game in Madison against Wisconsin. Delta did direct flights. Normally they do not fly directly in and out of Portland to Madison, and they built a couple of flights just for Duck fans.
And they did that in 2021 when they visited Columbus.
Smart. Very smart.
Absolutely.
And hats off to Eugene Airport for kind of pushing that as well with the airlines that service our little airport here, which I love, by the way. I love Eugene Airport. It's the best thing. I'll be hopping on one of those next week when I go to Seattle.
Eugene just has so much. It's so much more of a college town than like Evanston. You know, I don't know what like.
Well, you're flying to Chicago though.
Where do you think the pecking order is for Northwestern football even in Evanston? And you know, the Bears, the Cubs. Like
I mean, but they haven't. So I think when Pat Fitzgerald had them rolling.
They've had their moments. I'm not saying they haven't.
Then that's when they rise. I mean, Chicago sports fans, as you well know,
yes,
they love the winners.
Correct.
But they also are diehard with their team. Man, you do not. My cold dead hands. You're going to rip it away from me.
Right.
So they'll hang with the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, the Sox. And by the way, again, I'll just remind for those that are neophytes to this program, you are not a Cubs fan and a Sox fan if you're from Chicago. You're one or the other.
Correct.
You are not both. So, but they will root for those teams to their dying day, and then it's kind of like the rest of it is there. I mean, even with the Bulls, and to me, I think the pecking order for me now, if you're in Chicago, is going to be Cubs, then
Bears,
then the Bears, then
Blackhawks,
the Blackhawks. Then the Bulls and the White Sox are kind of right there because the Bulls haven't been good forever.
But my point is, Illinois is also in the area.
Champaign, it's a little bit south. It's a little bit removed.
More.
It's a better alumni. Program. There are more alumni in the Chicagoland area,
and they're a better sports program. I mean, how long did Northwestern not even make the tournament? Have they made the tournament still? I don't remember where that was, but I know forever they hadn't made the tournament. I don't think there's that excitement for Northwestern sports.
There isn't, and there's probably more Notre Dame fans in the Chicagoland area than there are. Illinois or Northwestern fans, if you want to combine them. There are.
So I'm interested in seeing the atmosphere there. I know there are a lot of Oregon fans, though, also in Chicago. Right. Because there's Oregon fans everywhere.
I'm expecting to see a lot of yellow and green in the stands.
Yeah. I think so, too.
And big noon kickoff. I was kind of curious why they picked it, and then I looked at the schedule. So this ended up being a situation of there wasn't a lot of good games, and Fox always wants to have that kickoff at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, noon on the West Coast. So they only have a choice of a certain number of games where, because there are actually a couple of better games, but CBS or ESPN or NBC already had the rights to those games. So they couldn't go to that site because they wanted to have that game. It's not like the Texas Ohio State game in that respect.
Of course.
So I mean, they wanted to be there for the first week, which that was a good choice.
But I think we're going to just get more of these types of games that are, I mean, maybe you don't want it to be big noon kickoff, but just thinking about where Oregon stands in their conference, where a lot of these conferences are, and of course the SEC is sort of the, well, people will say the exception to this, I think it's still true, is that you're going to have a lot of these matchups with a team like Oregon and middle to bottom tier teams in the conference, where the games just aren't particularly interesting. Honestly, I'm not saying that this game is like there's not things you could look at and be like, oh, this is unique in this certain way. But
it's a 27-point spread again.
That's what I'm saying.
So
I don't know if this is all good for the regular season of college football. And we've talked about this with the Ohio State-Texas game. And are these games going to be played? And hey, that was actually like a really good game. Did we
Oklahoma, Michigan, good game.
Exactly. Like I think that people want to see these matchups throughout the year because honestly, we need to know how good these teams are, and we need to play teams that are out of their conference to be able to compare and contrast and do all those things. So.
Yeah, I like that. The Danny and Justin radio program. Thanks for tuning in from the Bigfoot Beverages studios in Eugene and Newport. We'll have Dave Eanet on in a moment. We're going to listen to David Braun, the head coach of Northwestern, here in a second because he had a few things to say. And was being very nice when he was talking
Please don't hurt me.
about Oregon. A sharp contrast to Mike Gundy's press conferences rolling up to the Oregon game. And I think all of the coaches that are going to play Oregon have probably taken notice that
we're sorry. We're sorry.
Because you're not going to want to poke the bear. Dan Lanning, he said in his postgame, they threw gas on us. And not that we needed that much more motivation, said the Oregon head coach.
Yeah, you didn't need to throw gas on the
but then he
fire,
threw gas
but they
on
did.
Us. Dang right, I'm going to use it. I mean, if anybody has not figured this out already, that Dan Lanning and his staff are mass motivators. They are.
They are, absolutely. I mean, you saw the clip of him.
I get fired up watching.
I forgot what it's called again. The review videos.
Ducks versus them.
Ducks versus them. There you go. You saw the one from this
the
game.
bull. They're the bull.
I mean, he's electric.
The bull don't care.
I mean, how could you not be fired up after watching that?
So I say, anybody, and when I talk to former players, it's like I would run through a wall
exactly.
for that guy.
I would, and I'm not on the field. And I just cover the team.
All right, let's listen to David Braun. He's got a ton of respect for Oregon.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think during the week, it's something you're trying to block out. You're just trying to focus on what you can control today. But I think it's also really important to acknowledge, like, no, this is exciting. Like, this is why you play in the Big Ten. Big noon kickoff coming to campus. The students are back. Like, we need Wild Side, like, at a whole nother level. The lakefront needs to be packed with purple. We need to create a home field advantage. It may be a smaller venue, but it can still be an incredible advantage for the Cats. These are days that you dream of when you dream of playing college football. I think it's really important that we tune that out during the week, acknowledge it on Saturday, take a moment to take it in and say, yeah, this is awesome, and then focus on executing.
I mean, I love the narrative because the coach is trying to keep his team and the fan base in the right direction. But the Wild Side in a 15,000-seat stadium that's got most of the seats in the end zones in a temporary stadium, I don't know how much of an atmosphere you can build there, how crazy it's going to get. Help me here,
it's
Justin.
Just not, you know what it reminds me of? And
the water boy?
You know, it reminds me of like COVID.
When there was just fake people in this.
Well, there was just like
paper.
Media, basically. And there was I know that in
they
some
might prove us wrong.
In some places they played with just like somewhat limited capacity. So I think that's maybe the most similar. I mean, none of these players, of course, we finally got to the point where all these players that are playing I don't think anybody has COVID years left or anything like that. Like I think that cycle is finally over at this point. But,
I think it is, yeah.
So none of these players are going to have that experience, but maybe some of the coaches will.
Well, David Braun's second year, lost to Tulane opening week. A big bounce-back win against an FCS opponent, Western Illinois. The Leathernecks. Love that nickname, by the way. Leathernecks. That's a good nickname.
I was confused, though. I think they had a bulldog as their logo, unless I'm mistaken, unless something was wrong.
No, they could, but they're known as the Leathernecks. So
I won't question it.
All right, so...
But there does seem to be a lot of respect between Northwestern and Oregon.
What an incredible challenge that we have with Oregon, you know, with our Big Ten opener. Again, you know, in our prep over the summer, there was a tremendous amount of respect for what they do and how they do it. And you watch their first two games. I mean, it's like they're not leaving anything in the tank. I mean, this is a special football team that's really well coached and will present a ton of challenges for us. But that's something that this football team is embracing.
Well, I don't think I could have said that any better. David Braun, the head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats, who take on the Ducks, 9 a.m. here on the left coast. It'll be an 11 o'clock kickoff in Evanston at Martin Stadium, which is Northwestern Medicine Field, right off the campus. It's a temporary stadium. They've been playing it the last couple of years. They've also played a couple of games at Wrigley Field. This will not.
I love that.
I would have loved it. This game.
That would have been
Wrigley Field.
Awesome. That would have been a great. Everybody involved.
I would have bent Woody's elbow to get us to go if that would have been the
That never
case.
would have happened.
Forget him.
I could have stayed at my grandma's place. That would have been great.
The Danny Justin Radio Program. We're going to have Dave Eanet, the voice of the Wildcats, here in a moment. But we got one more cut from David Braun about what Oregon does well.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, we could be here for a long time. The things that really stand out offensively, I just think they're really well thought out. They allow their guys to play fast. They vary their tempos. They've found ways to create a ton of explosive plays. They start fast. I mean, that's been, something that's been very consistent throughout Coach Lanning's time there, offensively starting really fast. Coming into it with a new quarterback this year, you'd think maybe there'd be, a fall off there. That certainly isn't the case. Their quarterback's playing at a really high level. They're utilizing all their weapons. They're lining them up in different places. Defensively, young in the back half, but very talented. They don't play young. Very veteran up front, two edges that are, special players, veteran linebacker group. I mean, you can tell that group's playing with a lot of confidence. And on special teams, sometimes when you face a team that's as talented as Oregon, maybe like special teams becomes an afterthought. They use it as an opportunity to use the skill that they have and be aggressive. They play in all three phases. Tremendous amount of respect for what those guys are doing.
Well, I'll say this about Coach Braun. He's definitely scouted the Ducks well.
He certainly has.
And
effusive praise.
And, just setting himself up for the postgame. Of course, that's what Oregon fans hope. I mean, and I'll just say, I
think it's totally fair, honestly. Everybody knows what's going to happen.
Well, see, and I'm normally a superstitious guy when it comes to stuff like this, where it's like, don't talk about the no-hitter when it's in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
But this does not feel like this is a trap game for Oregon. It's the first road game in a very small stadium. But if they could have picked any opponent to take this up with, it would have been Northwestern or Purdue or somebody else. I would actually be more concerned about Purdue right now than I would be Northwestern.
Yeah. And we saw it happen last year when everybody was concerned about Purdue as well. But I completely agree. I mean, their starting running back just got injured. Like, there's just so many things that point to Oregon really not having anything. I mean, I just really can't see it. Like, this is one of those games where if you're somebody that's going to say, if Oregon loses this game, I'll do X.
Yeah, I'm not going to walk 46 miles like the kid from Montana State had to do.
Yeah, but I think you'd be pretty safe this week.
The biggest concern I would have had coming into this game would have been the weather, honestly. Because you never know what the weather's going to do, but it's going to be perfect. It's going to be absolutely pristine outside the Chicagoland area. So that's not going to be an issue. I mean, if it was blowing sideways and, 20-mile-an-hour winds, sideways rain, then that could have been a neutralizing factor. But I think Oregon's Grog game would have just taken care of business and will take care of business this weekend. However, let's not put all of it in a box yet. Let's talk to Dave Eanet, the voice of the Wildcats, as he returns here to the program next on the Danny and Justin Radio. The Danny and Justin Radio program for a Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin. Also podcast. Wherever you pod the platform, you can follow us, Danny and Justin. Like, subscribe, give us a star if you'd like. From the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport, let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline and welcome in. He's become a recurring guest. Maybe we should just do this weekly. It's the great Dave Eanet, the voice of Northwestern Athletics. Dave, how are things in Chicago right now?
Actually, things are pretty good, aside from the fact that the city's trying to recover from the Bears' second half defeat last night. And some tough times for the Cubs, but otherwise all good.
Yeah, well, and we're right there with you, although we are Packer fans. We're not Bear fans, but we are.
Well, I can't talk to you guys.
No.
I know.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for being on the program.
We're the worst Chicagoans.
So 1974 was the only and the last time that these two teams met. It was a Northwestern win, so the Wildcats are 1-0 against the Ducks, a 14-10 win. Last week, nice recovery by your program after the opening loss to Tulane. You come back a 42-7 win over Western Illinois. But obviously, and let's not, mix, semantics about this. This is going to be a big lift for Dave Braun's team. So talk about the prep and what you sense about this team coming into this matchup against Oregon.
Well, I think that, look, these guys have played a lot of big games. I mean, Preston Stone, prior to coming to Northwestern, was part of a playoff team last year. And there's guys on this team who last year went up against an Ohio State team that was headed to a national championship, played against Michigan in Ann Arbor. So they played good teams, but clearly they're catching Oregon at a time when everything is rolling for the Ducks, and Northwestern has been at best inconsistent over two games. I mean, they suffered a loss in their opener against Tulane that I think still is bothersome. They were much better against Western Illinois, but Western Illinois is nowhere near on the level of a Tulane, and certainly not even in the same frequency as Oregon. So I mean, it's a tough game. It's a big challenge for them, but I do think, as Braun said at his news conference this week, that this is why these guys came to play in the Big Ten. It's a big game, a lot of national attention. It's a home game. Game's been sold out for a while, and granted, it's in a smaller venue than either of these teams is accustomed to because they're playing in the temporary stadium. But there's going to be a lot of hype around this game, and I think they're excited for that the chance to go up against a team like Oregon that a lot of people think could very well be the national champion this year.
And just how much excitement is there to have Big Noon Kickoff in town?
Well, on the radio side, we don't talk a lot about Big Noon Kickoffs. I mean, that's for the TV guys to worry about. But no, I mean, I think there's some excitement about it because you've got you're kind of in you're ground zero for college football this week.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that there is some excitement for that. And, it's not the first time for this program. I mean, they've been in the spotlight before. It's just not been terribly recent. And so I think that they look at it as an opportunity. I mean, I really do think that they feel confident after the way they played on a Friday, and the score really, again, Western Illinois, not to take anything away from them, but, it's an FCS opponent, but
Sure.
They've struggled at times with FCS teams in the past, and they didn't in this game. And Preston Stone, I think, showed more what he's capable of. I think the receivers showed what they're capable of, and I think they feel like, well, they're coming off a much better game, which if this game had been last week, coming off that Tulane game, I think the mindset might have been a lot different.
It's Dave Eanet, the great Dave Eanet, joining us on the Danny and Justin radio program. So I'm going to go biblical, Dave, and the whole Old Testament, David versus Goliath, and you've got a quarterback, last name of Stone. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy alliteration there. So, I mean, there's not anything better for a coach than to say we're the underdogs. Nobody is counting on us to even show up. We're going to lay down. No, we're not going to lay down. So, I mean, wouldn't that be some kind of motivation? What kind of David Braun, enthusiasm can he instill in this team to be, nobody's counting on us to even be in this game, to kind of get them motivated against a huge opponent with Oregon coming in?
Yeah, you know what, Danny? I mean, I think that's very valid. I think that's something that David's not going to say it publicly,
no,
but I'm sure when he talks to his team, he's going to play that card. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
And the fact is that, and you guys know I've done this for a long time, and over my years, Northwestern has had a lot of games in which they were big double-digit underdogs against top 10 teams, certainly top 15 teams, and walked out with wins. And so it's not like it's unprecedented in the history of the program. This is a little bit different because they really haven't had one of those in a couple of years.
Sure.
But they've done it before, and, you go back to the I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. 1995, they go into South Bend. Northwestern is playing Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a top 5 team, I think, at the time, and favored by 27 points.
Right.
And the Wildcats walk out of there with a win. And they have done it. It's you can pull out whatever cliche you want. I mean, it is kind of why they do play the game,
right?
Instead
Absolutely.
of just declaring Oregon the winner. So, I'm sure that David is reminding his team of that and has inspirational tapes to show them. But ultimately, it's going to come down to getting out there and not handing the Ducks an early big lead by going 3 and out and then giving up big plays. I mean, they had Penn State come in a couple of years ago, David's first year, came into Evanston, highly ranked, terrific team, and they went toe-to-toe with them, and the game went to the fourth quarter, which was the whole idea. And, again, Penn State was a big favorite in that game. I don't know if the spread was the same as it is this week, but the point is the same, that they didn't make big mistakes. They didn't let Penn State come in and just blitz them early. And they hung with them for pretty much the whole game. And I'm sure they're hoping to take that same approach this Saturday.
And David Braun is a younger coach. He obviously came in there and brought some immediate success. What kind of energy has he brought to this program?
Well, I think that he came in with the toughest situations you could ever walk into.
Sure.
And much like Pat Fitzgerald did, Fitz took over after his predecessor, Randy Walker, died suddenly at the end of June in 2006. And
right.
Shortly thereafter, at the age of 31, he was elevated to head coach, and that team was heartbroken. That team was grieving. And you talk about a tough way to become a head coach and take over a program. Well, it was obviously a very different situation with David Braun, but Braun was there as Fitz was on Coach Walker's staff. Braun was on Coach Fitzgerald's staff as defensive coordinator in his first year, had never been a head coach, and suddenly finds himself just before camp elevated to interim head coach. And the fact that he kept that team together, I think really tells you what you need to know about David Braun, because there was the expectation that a good majority of that team was just going to up and leave, and they were going to transfer. They had the opportunity to transfer, but only, I think, one or two guys did. And one guy who did came back. So, I think clearly this team believes in Braun. They trust in him. They ended up having an 8-win season, winning a bowl game against Utah. And they took a step back last year, no question. Inconsistent play, uncertainty at quarterback. They switched starters 3 games into the season, and that, they just were beset by different problems and then injuries. But I think that now the vibe is different. There's a lot of confidence. There are some key upperclassmen on this team who I think are in leadership roles, and I think that it's a confident group. Whether that'll translate to a win Saturday, who knows? But I think it will translate to wins as the season goes along.
The legendary Dave Eanet joining us, the voice of the Wildcats, on the Danny and Justin radio program as we talk about Northwestern and Oregon. Big noon kickoff. It'll be 9 a.m. here on the left coast. It'll be 11 there in Evanston, Illinois. So, unfortunately, Dave, the injury bug reached up and nipped you. Again, Cam Porter, the Northwestern running back, ruled out for the season after suffering that injury against Western Illinois in the second half. 18 carries, 137 yards, and a touchdown the early part of the season. So now you have to turn to Caleb Komolafe, who's rushed 20 times this year, just shy of 100 yards. So although Northwestern's offense leans heavily on the run under David Braun, I mean, it might mean that Preston Stone needs to take a little bit more of this load. Am I incorrect?
It might, but I don't know that he wouldn't have maybe had to do that this week anyway against Oregon. But I would say this, that if there were a position, and this is not in any way to minimize the impact and the regret that this team has about losing Cam Porter. Mm-hmm. But if you look at Komolafe and Joseph Hyman II, they're both to this point averaging about 5 yards a carry, and they're both very capable running backs. And so, I think that Hyman, probably a guy they've used more in the passing game.
Okay.
And I think they will continue to do that. Komolafe is a guy who can get tough yards, but he can also run away from you. And then there's a couple of young backs behind them who could be in the mix. Deshaun Reeder would be one. He's a redshirt freshman. But certainly it's a huge loss with Cam from a leadership standpoint. He's one of 2 3-time captains in Northwestern history. He's a 6th-year guy, missed the entire 2021 season with an injury. So you hate to see it. But on the other hand, he's going to remain very active with the team and part of the leadership group. And so I think that it's something that if they had to lose anybody, I'm not saying they would have picked Cam Porter, but I think that they feel like they have some guys who can step in.
So, Dave, let's talk about what Northwestern wants to try to do defensively against Oregon, because obviously Oregon's already put on display, 59, 69 points in the first two games. Dante Moore, a bevy of running backs. The wide receiving room looks solid. And Northwestern last week just gave up 181 total yards against the Leathernecks of Western Illinois. So, right. I mean, when you look at on tape, what do you think Northwestern wants to do to try and disrupt Oregon's offense?
Well, I mean, for one thing, they're going to have to put pressure on Moore, and considering that he hasn't been sacked yet this year, that's not an easy task. And Northwestern's only got 3 sacks in the first 2 games.
Okay.
I think their defensive line is capable of more. Now, they did disrupt the pocket a lot against Western. Again, FCS opponent. That's not the offensive line that they're going to be facing on Saturday. And so, I think they got to find a way to get guys like Anto Saka and Aiden Hubbard into the backfield. And they got to stop Oregon's running game, because I think, look, that's going to be a key, right? They can't give up chunk plays, and they've been pretty good so far at avoiding those, aside from a long run by the quarterback Retzloff for Tulane in the opener. I think they've got to make sure a lot of it's going to fall on the offense, guys, because they can't just go 3 and out and put the defense on the field and then go 3 and out again and put them back out there, because it's going to be a little warmer here on Saturday. I think I was hearing forecasts of around 80. You just can't have your defense on the field the whole day. And, they've, like I say, they've avoided giving up big plays in the passing game so far. And I think against this Oregon team, pressure from their front four, and however else they may choose to get some pressure, and make sure they just don't give up those chunk plays in the passing game.
So, Dave, it kind of flies in the face of what some people would say about this kind of matchup is don't get off, you need to get off to a fast start. It almost seems like to me that you want Oregon to get off to a slow start and kind of slug it out a little bit and get into the trenches and kind of muck them up, hit body shots and such, and keep this game, under a 40-point total, under a 30.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. You don't want – look, they don't want to get in a shootout with Oregon. I don't think anybody does, but certainly not this team. And like I said, when Penn State came in, they made it a 4-quarter game, and It was by doing exactly what you're talking about. So, I think that's going to be the goal. Tim McGargle, their defensive coordinator, who is the all-time leading tackler in Northwestern history, he's been in a lot of these games. He's coached in a lot of these games. I think that's the idea. Try to sustain some drives, and that's why, getting back to your original point about the running game, how they're not going to suddenly turn to Preston to try to put it on his shoulders. They need to sustain drives, and that they're going to do they had great balance against Western. I don't know if they can have that kind of balance against Oregon, but that certainly would be the goal, to try to get some sustained drives, use the clock, and try to keep their defense off the field.
All right. Well, so one last question, and it's about the field itself, because obviously playing in a temp setting, the fans actually, if people don't realize this, they're in the end zones. Isn't that weird to even look at eyesight, looking at there's nothing behind each bench in terms of really fans are sitting behind?
Well, there are fans.
But not as many.
I mean, clearly the bulk of the fans are in the end zones, but there are. I mean, the best seats in the house are right below us.
Okay.
We're on the west sideline, so there are some. There just aren't as many of them. Look, I mean, they had to make some accommodations here while they're building this new stadium, and so this was a concept that initially people thought, well, how could you do that? How could you just bring in temporary stands and put them up around your soccer and lacrosse field? And yet it's been a big success for them. And there are a lot of people who kind of wish that they had built a stadium there. They didn't have the room to put the stadium on the lakefront. But it's different. There's no question, and it's going to be different for Oregon coming in and playing in Autzen Stadium. How many do they seat?
57,000, 60 when they're standing room. Yeah.
It's going to be a little cozier on Saturday, and it won't have the same atmosphere. And you do wonder, what effect that has on a team coming in.
Yeah. So, all right, Dave, as we let you go, so how's quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes right now, this is great radio, retirement treating you? Have you been able to sleep in?
Let's see. I was up at 6 this morning, and I did fall back to sleep a little bit because I was up late watching the Monday night game. But I've adjusted to it. I'm, just enjoying sort of settling in. It's only been a couple of weeks, so I think I will get used to it. But I'm busy enough with this team, and there's plenty of stuff going on around them that I think I'll find a way to tire myself out so I sleep a little later.
All right, Dave. Well, just retired as the WGN sports director. We appreciate your time, buddy. Have a great call on Saturday.
Danny, Justin, good being with you guys.
Thanks, my friend. It's the great Dave Eanet, the voice of Northwestern Wildcat Sports, as we roll on here. The Danny and Justin radio program live from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport. You see this thing on Twitter?
What thing?
Rumors swirling that Oregon basketball is targeting a 22-year-old Chinese guard, Wei Lin, averaging 21 points, 3.5 rebounds, 5 assists, while shooting 37% from three and 88% from line in the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association.
Sign me up.
He'll be eligible to play this season. They've got him in a duck uniform.
Of course. That's the power of Photoshop. No, I think, listen, sign me up.
No.
I love it.
Come on.
Why not?
Come on.
He's got experience professionally. There's no way that this guy wouldn't come in and be good.
All right. Let's get to something that's real and true, and it's Dan Lanning, the head coach of the Oregon football program. And by the way, again, thanks to Dave Eanet for joining us, the voice of Northwestern. If you missed that interview, please go back to the podcast, which will be up here shortly. And Danny and Justin, wherever you pod, whatever your platform is, and you can listen to Dave Eanet, give you some good info on Northwestern this weekend that Ducks play. So first thing is, first road trip for the Ducks. Got to go back to the Central Time Zone, go back to Chi-Town. That's where they're flying to, and then they'll bus up to Evanston, Illinois.
You think they're going into O'Hare?
They probably, private charter jet probably going to Midway.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking Midway will be the landing spot. I don't think you want to mess with O'Hare.
You don't. For anybody listening out there, you don't want to mess with O'Hare.
It's a mess. Last time you were there.
Not as bad as Dallas. Dallas is worse.
Listen, are you getting PTSD when we start talking about
air travel problems?
Coach, how do you adjust to the time of the game just besides the travel?
We're a morning practice team, so not a lot. That's what I told the guys this morning when we were about to go out to practice. This is about the same time we'll be playing, fellas. So our bodies are used to it, right? It's something that we can do that's a little bit different, and we're looking forward to that opportunity.
So we have talked several times about the Martin Stadium crowd's going to be at most 15,000, and it's going to be out of the configuration. I was just showing Justin, and if you want to go online, you can actually see what Martin Stadium looks like. It's the soccer field. Mm-hmm. So there are stands between the end zones, but the end zones is where they built up huge stands. So playing not in front of 57,000, 60,000 screaming people, but around 15,000 people. And how does Oregon adjust to the smaller crowd?
I think the field's still going to be the same size, right? Also, that's what you focus on, right? It's definitely a different environment, but I've coached in some of those, right? I've coached high school football. I've coached FCS football. I've played NAI football, right? So I've been in some of those environments, and if you love football, you want to play your best regardless of what the crowd looks like or what the setting is. So it'll be a fun experience for our players. They don't get to do that very often.
Very clear that no motivation is needed from Dan Lanning. I think that he said this before. Him and his players would play on concrete or something like that. But one guy that did not play
was last week, yeah,
was Austin Novosad. So we got a little bit of an Austin Novosad, an injury update.
Yeah, more precautionary probably than anything. I think Austin can go, but his lat's been bothering him a little bit. He's been able to practice, but we're just trying to limit him and get him in position where he can go again.
So if you're a coach and you've coached a team that has won by 40-plus points, by 66 points, there's probably things that you need to kind of go search out on the film to say, yeah, we got to improve on that, we got to improve on that, and keeping players motivated. Dan Lanning talks about, some of those processes.
Great. I wish you would have just redirected the protection to start with, right? But unbelievable block by Noah, right? And really great play by Dante. But that's, again, another moment that we thought, okay, let's walk away from it. Everybody sees that play, and they see an unbelievable play by Dante, unbelievable play by the offensive line, unbelievable play by DeCorian and Noah, and there's a lot of people that were part of that play. And we see that play and we say, man, I wish we could have redirected our protection here, right? And it would have made it even easier to execute. But they did a great job of being able to execute. And that's a great example of you can't always replicate everything you're going to see in a game, in practice. It's a little bit different look than we had seen. And when it hit, we did a good job of executing because it's a little bit different on game day.
He's talking about Dante possibly trying to change the play into something different. And also goes back to what he was talking about in the first week against Montana State, where I think it was DeCorian Moore blocking and really blocking well, but he says he was blocking the wrong guy on that play.
Right. So it's about the process. It's sometimes the result against a team like Oklahoma State. If you do that same process against an Ohio State, then it's going to be a sack. It's going to be a fumble. It's going to be something that's not a positive outcome. Against Oklahoma State, Dante was able to roll out. He has his man out in the sideline, touchdown. But I think that's why you mentioned they're looking for things to correct. Obviously, there's not going to be on the scoreboard too many things that you can look at. But I talked about the run defense yesterday. Talked about some of the little things in terms of the procedurals. There were a couple missed. One really big coverage lapse in that game where the receiver basically caught a punt, essentially. That's how far everybody was away from him. But you got to find ways to keep your team motivated, and I'm sure that sometimes the players can get a little bit all right, come on, we just had this great performance. Why are you trying to correct us? But it's kind of like with everything. Even if you're standard, or even if you have a good performance, you do a good project. You still want to find the things that need to be corrected because that's how you're going to get it to the standard, which is perfection. You're never going to reach it, but you always got to strive for it.
Well, and that's the whole thing. You're trying to achieve greatness. You're chasing greatness is what Dan Lanning likes to call it as well. We're chasing it. You're never going to get there, but you got to get it within reach. And so that's what Oregon is. Listen, the iron sharpens iron, all the cliches, and it's Oregon against Oregon every week. Dan Lanning has that mentality. He's been preaching it for 3 years now with the university is I literally do not care who's across from us. We have to chase our greatness, and that's all we're after.
Well, in the same mail, he doesn't care if you're a freshman. He doesn't care if you're a transfer. It's all earned.
Literally, it's open tryouts every single practice, which
best players play.
Absolutely, and that's what happens on the field.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
Kind of like this one. Baby J.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cut the ocean in half?
Ooh.
How do you cut the ocean in half?
Is this something with Moses?
No. Close, though.
Well, I went biblical with it.
No, you did. We had biblical reference earlier. You use a seesaw. Seesaw.
Okay.
Seesaw.
I feel like I was onto something there with this Moses thing.
You were more like a... the staff going into the ground, and splitting the ocean open. That's how you cut it in half.
Right.
You were somewhat close. You were in the ballpark. Once again, thanks to Dave Eanet, the voice of Northwestern, for hanging in with us. Thanks to you as well, as you lend us your ears for an hour in the fastest 60 minutes. Back tomorrow with a weekend, middle of the week program. Godfather will be here.
He will be. Speaking of being here, be there
tonight. PK Park. Northwest Championship Series starts 6:35 at PK Park. It's Eugene taking on Everett. Back tomorrow with the program. God bless. Put a smile on your face. Someone else. Today's episode of you. Peace.